I give the floor to the representative of the Russian Federation.
Madam President, we'd like to congratulate you and the delegation for having called today's meeting. We thank the Special Envoy of the Secretary-General, Mr. Griffiths, for his comprehensive report on the efforts to bring about rapprochement in the position of the parties to the Yemeni conflict and plans to renew the negotiation process. Mr. Griffiths, we have high hopes in you in the context of bringing the parties to realise that it would be futile and not viable to attempt a military solution. We thank the Director of Humanitarian Operations, Mr. Ging, for his briefing, from which it clearly follows that Yemen and its people are going through a very severe humanitarian catastrophe. We fully support the initiative of the Special Envoy to relaunch intra-Yemeni consultations in Geneva in September. We think these are highly necessary and open a unique opportunity to end the war, the bloody war indeed. It's important that all of the key players are involved in these negotiations, helping the parties to find a common denominator. We assume that implementing this idea will be facilitated by maintaining calm around Hodeidah and by foregoing any aggression. All are called on to exercise restraint and to reject the use of force. According to the Special Envoy, what is needed is de-escalation here and the creation of trust measures, including the freeing of those who have been apprehended or imprisoned. We think that we need to join the efforts of all Yemeni peoples to fight against terrorism on the Arabian Gulf, and the Arabian Peninsula rather. It's also important to accent the fact that the port of Hodeidah, like other Yemeni ports, needs to function stably because there is no alternative to them as a channel for sustainable and constant entry into the country of humanitarian and commercial goods. The restraint is all the more important because 2/3 of the Yemeni population need assistance. Civilian infrastructure is in ruins. Yemen is threatened by a new epidemic of cholera. Therefore, we think it is important to continue humanitarian assistance. We note the courageous work done in the country by UN humanitarian workers and also the contribution of a whole range of member states, including the near neighbours of Yemen. Russia is also helping the Yemeni people through Sana'a and also through Aden. But it's clear to everybody, humanitarian work is not sufficient to make progress towards ending the conflict. Military action also cannot bring us closer to this goal. Everybody agrees that the crisis in Yemen cannot have a military solution. There is a need to quickly bring the situation into a political arena, and a key role here belongs to the Special Envoy. Mr. Griffiths, we support your efforts, including to carry out practical work with the parties and to bring them towards closer cooperation with the United Nations. It's important that you actively work immediately in Yemen, supporting dialogue with all of the main Yemeni and regional players. We believe that the potential for a collective international assistance to the efforts of the Special Envoy hasn't been fully realised by any means. In our view, what remains necessary is the creation of a viable, balanced and focused format to support the efforts through the UN. And this is the main thing. This would work on a consolidated basis. We'd like to emphasize that the establishment of a political process in Yemen would make an important contribution to stabilizing the situation in the whole sub-region. We recall our proposal to carry out something in the Persian Gulf and also possibly then in the Middle East more generally, namely the creation of a package of security and confidence-building measures. This is a structure that should include all of the countries in the region. The countries of the Persian, of Iran and the Arabian Peninsula would then work together to secure security in this part of the world, and also to address long-standing and other crisis situations, including the conflict in Yemen. We need to have dialogue and cooperation instead of threats and conflict, and then work with new efforts, joint efforts, to improve the atmosphere, which would be the main contribution to helping Mr. Griffiths' efforts. Russia continues its consultations with all interested parties to the efforts to implement the Russian concept of security and cooperation in the Persian Gulf. We believe that this is a current and essential approach. In conclusion, we call on all parties involved in the conflict in Yemen to make use of the opportunity opened by the proposal of Mr. Griffiths to organise negotiations in Geneva at the beginning of September. Their success will be determined by refraining from military action and by working towards a political settlement. The priority here should be exclusively the interests of the people of Yemen. Thank you.
I thank the representative of the Russian Federation for his statement.